And then we listened to Thick as a Brick. And like when you're 7 years old and you're going, why am I have to listen to this very, 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 very long song? Thick as a Brick is 37 minutes. But I can sit here at 31 and say, at the end of the day, it's very, 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 it was a great experience having those music Saturdays.
For decades, Joe Bonamassa has been a giant in the blues rock world. We know his sound, we know his signature licks, but who are the guitarists he looks up to? Who are the players so legendary they're on his personal playlist? Well, after years of questions, Joe is finally opening up about his absolute guitar heroes. And these aren't just players who influenced him there. It's the ones who forever changed his musical DNA. This isn't just some random top 10 list. This is a roadmap. It's a map of the notes, the tones, and the souls that came together to create one of the most respected guitarists of our generation. Joe is a true scholar of the instrument, a walking encyclopedia of vintage gear and blues history. His sound is this incredible blend of raw American blues and the sophisticated British blues rock that it sparked. So to understand who he loves is to understand who he is. From the smoky clubs of the Mississippi Delta to the roaring arenas of London, these are the guitarists who laid the tracks for a kid from New Hartford, New York, to forge a sound that's entirely his own. Before you can build anything, you need a solid foundation. For Joe Bonamassa and for just about every blues rock guitarist that came after. That foundation was built by three men who shared a royal last name, King. We're talking about B.B. King, K. Albert King, and Freddie King. They weren't related by blood, but they were brothers in the blues, each speaking a unique dialect in the language of the electric guitar. For Joe, they are the essential pillars of American blues. Let's start with the patriarch. A man who wasn't just a hero, but a mentor. The legendary B.B. King. The story of their friendship is the stuff of blues folklore. Back in 1989, a 12-year-old smoking Joe Bonamassa was invited to open for B.B. King. Just think about that for a second. You're 12, and you're asked to stand on the same stage as the undisputed king of the blues. It was a life-altering experience. That summer, Joe played about 20 shows with B.B., watching from the wings every single night, soaking in every note, every bend. Every bit of showmanship. Bonamassa has said, I learned everything that I needed to know by watching B.B. King play. It wasn't just about the notes. It was about his presence, his grace, his here class. B.B. was the complete package, a masterful guitarist, a world-class singer, and a true entertainer. Joe even called him the Frank Sinatra of the blues. What he learned from B.B. was the art of phrasing. B.B. could say more with one single vibrating note than most guitarists could with 1,000. His famous hummingbird vibrato wasn't just a technique. It was a human voice, weeping and singing through the amp. B.B. gave Joe a stage, his friendship, and a vision for what a life in the blues could be. A debt Joe feels he can never truly repay. Next in the Royal Trinity is a man whose style was so original. Bonamassa has called him the Immaculate Conception as a guitar player. That man is Albert King. If B.B. was the elegant ambassador, Albert was the raw, menacing soul of the blues. A left-hander, he famously played a right-handed guitar flipped upside down without restringing it. This meant he bent strings by pulling them down, which is physically the opposite of a standard bend. It gave his playing this ferocious, ripping quality, a sound of pure, unapologetic aggression. Bonamassa has spent countless hours dissecting that sound. Albert didn't just play solos, he made powerful statements. The space between his notes was just as important as the notes themselves. You can hear Albert's DNA all over Joe's playing in those aggressive multi-step bends and his sheer swagger. When Joe straps on a flying V, the guitar most associated with Albert, he's channeling that spirit. He describes Albert's style as the nastiest in the blues, which, coming from a blues man, is the highest compliment you can get. The third and final king in this foundational trio is Freddie King, the Texas Cannonball. Freddie was a pure powerhouse. While BB had the vocal-like phrasing and Albert had the raw aggression, Freddie brought the fire and a pop sensibility. He was an instrumentalist first, known for knockout tracks like Hideaway and The Stumble. When a young Bonamassa first heard him, he was blown away by the sheer power. Freddie's sound was huge and his playing was aggressive and a little faster than the other two kings. What Joe really admires about Freddie was his ability to be both, a blues purist and a bit of a pop star. Inducting Freddie into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was a massive honor for Joe. A chance to pay respect to one of the titans who built the genre. These three kings laid the groundwork for everything that came next in blues guitar. Their styles are so fundamental, yet so different. It makes you wonder, who are your foundational players? Who are the guitarists that form the pillars of your musical taste? Let me know in the comments who your guitar heroes are. If the three kings were the foundation, the next group of heroes were the architects who built something entirely new on top of it. These were the British players of the 60s who took American blues, cranked it through their Marshall stacks, and sold it back to the world with a new, louder accent. For Bonamassa, a self-proclaimed Anglophile, this era is sacred ground. And among all the English greats, three names stand tallest: Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, and the man Joe considers his single biggest influence, Eric Clapton. Let's start with the master composer and producer, Jimmy Page. Bonamassa is a fierce defender of Page, especially against critics who might call his playing sloppy. For Joe, that completely misses the point. Page wasn't just a guitarist. It was a visionary who used the guitar as his orchestra. As Joe challenges the critics, you can call him sloppy all day long, but can you play it? Try to play The Rain song as well as he played it, you won't be able to. Not a chance. What Joe admires so deeply about Page is his genius as an arranger. He'd take a standard blues song and build a whole new universe around it, understanding atmosphere, silence, and the drama of reverb. His work was less about technical perfection and more about creating an epic, cinematic feeling and approach that heavily influenced Joe's own meticulous arrangements. Next is the ultimate innovator, the fearless Jeff Beck. Bonamassa speaks about Beck with total awe, calling him without question the greatest rock guitar player who ever lived. Beck was on another plane entirely. He never followed trends. He created them. Joe often says that Jeff Beck made the blues angry and mean. He weaponized the guitar, creating sounds that were visceral, unpredictable, and wildly expressive. Beck's attack, his tone, his vibrato, and Joe's words, they were peerless. What truly set Beck apart was his relentless evolution. He just kept getting better. His death in 2023 left what Joe called a hole in the world, describing him as a national treasure. And that brings us to the elephant in the room. The man Joe Bonamassa has repeatedly called his favorite guitar player Eric Clapton, specifically the Eric Clapton of the mid-1960s for Joe. The Holy Grail is the John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers album with Eric Clapton, better known as the Beano album. He says hearing that record was like finding the Rosetta Stone of blues. Guitar, that tone, that phrasing, it was perfect. This was a 21-year-old Clapton, plugging a Les Paul into a cranked Marshall amp and creating a sound that started a revolution. Clapton was the bridge from the American masters to the new rock generation. Joe has studied every detail of this era and is an authority on the legendary Beano Les Paul, which was stolen in 1966. He has even stated on good authority that the guitar still exists and is in a private collection on the east coast of the U.S., sharing. The stage with Clapton at the Royal Albert Hall in 2009 was a dream come true for Joe and a pivotal moment in his career. Beyond the American blues, pillars, and the British architects, Joe's musical DNA has some unexpected strands. These are the outliers, the virtuosos whose technical brilliance pushed the guitar into completely new territory. Two players in particular stand out: the jazz fusion speed demon Al Di Meola. and the Texas tone master Eric Johnson. First, let's talk about the man whose speed and precision are just mind-boggling. Al Di Meola. Joe is a huge fan of Di Meola's jazz fusion work and marvels at his playing. He describes Di Meola's old quadroons as insane. It's a style that seems almost impossible to copy. But you can hear the influence on Joe, especially in his faster, more articulate passages. Joe often picks almost every note, creating a clear attack even at high speeds, and has described his own fast playing as a hybrid of Al Di Meola and Eric Johnson. It shows a deep respect for instrumental mastery, no matter the genre. And this brings us to the second of the two Erics that Joe says are most important to him, Eric Johnson. If Clapton provided the blues rock foundation, Eric Johnson offered a blueprint for a more refined and technically dazzling approach. Joe has said he apologizes to Johnson every time he sees him for stealing his style. Joe first heard Johnson on a floppy vinyl record from a guitar magazine playing Cliffs of Dover. The tone was otherworldly, the phrasing impossibly fluid. It was a total revelation. While Joe admits he can't replicate Johnson's smooth legato technique, the influence of those cascading pentatonic runs is all over his solos. Beyond the licks, Johnson's obsessive approach to tone and gear also deeply resonated with Bonamassa, who is a notorious gear aficionado himself. So what does this list tell us about Joe Bonamassa? It reveals a musician built on a bedrock of tradition, but one who fully embraces innovation. From the raw power of the Three Kings, he learned the soul of the blues. From the British architects Page, Beck, and Clapton, he learned how to turn that soul into an arena rock spectacle. And from the virtuosos Di Meola and Johnson, he learned the value of technical precision and sonic exploration. Each hero is an ingredient. B.B. King is the deep, lyrical phrasing. Albert King is the raw, visceral power. Freddie King is the instrumental fire. Jeff Beck is the unpredictable chaos. Jimmy Page is the dark, cinematic atmosphere. Al Di Meola is the sharp, articulate precision. And at the center of it all are the two Erics, who provided the key ingredients for his own signature sound: the foundational blues rock of Clapton and the ethereal technique of Johnson. Theirs aren't just influences, they are tools. Joe Bonamassa has spent a lifetime studying them, not to copy, but to understand them so deeply he could create something new. He's a living library of the electric guitar and one of its most powerful modern voices. His heroes absolutely shaped his sound, but it's his passion and his relentless drive to honor their legacy while forging his own path that truly makes him Joe Bonamassa. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the players who shaped a modern blues titan, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a story from the world of guitar. And of course, go listen to the music of B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Al Di Meola, and Eric Johnson. Then put on a Joe Bonamassa record and listen for how the spirits of these giants sing through his strings. Thanks for watching.